Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group biweekly meeting. It is July 6th, 2017. This is our first meeting for the new Microsoft fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts in July, so for those of you that have made the meeting, thank you for joining, and for those of you that are watching this and wondering why your invite is out of date, we'll have the link for the updated invite here shortly. So, for those of you that might be new to the call or new to watching these recordings, we are part of the larger SharePoint Patterns and Practices program focused specifically around SharePoint framework development and client-side development in general. And we also talk about the JavaScript core library that the Patterns and Practices team has put together. So you've got two links down there at the bottom, aka MS-SPPNP-community. That's a shortcut to the Microsoft Tech community, which is a great place to ask general design questions, seek advice, things like that. If you're stuck on a project or looking at perhaps how to start a project, you're unsure maybe which technology to use or what design pattern to use, things like that. It's a great resource for those kinds of conversations. And then dev.office.com/SharePoint is the one-stop shop for all things SharePoint. And you could check out new SharePoint framework development if you want to get started on that, if you're new to that. We've got all our resources, or in the process of moving all our resources as well, for add-in development, and as well for managed code, full trust code like WSP solution package development. So all your SharePoint development resources will end up at dev.office.com/SharePoint. So check those out. And like I mentioned, be sure to update your invite. Obviously, if you are here on the call with me today, you've done this. But if you're watching this later, please do update. It's the same link as in the past, but we've updated the ICS file behind this. So it will be for the new fiscal year, which is kind of, I know, an arbitrary length of time, but for us, it's beginning of July to end of June. So in another year, we'll have to update this invite. So please do update your invite if you haven't. And again, that's obviously for folks listening and not so much for folks here on the call today. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to do a quick update on the JavaScript core component. Besa is out. He is on vacation, having hopefully a very relaxing, fun time. But so meaning we will not have a SharePoint framework update on today's call, though folks are certainly welcome to ask me questions in the open discussion, though I don't necessarily won't have the same kind of answers Vesa would have. And then we've got two demos, maybe one demo, but at least Jose's here. He's going to do a cool demo on some custom business objects using the JavaScript core library. And Sergey, if he shows up, will have a demo. He did a really cool pull request on the new configure method that he added. So that adds a lot of flexibility and ability to sort of reuse objects with certain sets of configurations, such as headers or even different base URLs for different sets of REST requests. So very cool addition, some really great work from him. And Gary thought he was on for an Angular 2 demo. Sure, if you're ready to do that, that'd be fine too. I apologize, I thought you needed a little bit more time. So I'll make you a presenter. See, we start a new fiscal year and just everything becomes a mess. We just fall apart. So, but it looks like if Sergey doesn't show up, we'll definitely have time. If you're prepared to do that demo, that'd be fantastic as well. So, and then we should have some time at the end for open discussion. And hopefully, like I said, this is all getting recorded accurately. So real quick, as always, a refresher on how to participate in both this special interest group as well as the larger Patterns and Practices program. So we're always looking for folks to demo on this call. So if you've written a SharePoint Framework web part, or now including some of the new SharePoint Framework extensions that are in preview, certainly welcome those demos. That'd be fantastic. I think they're really valuable for the community to see. If you're doing something with the new community sites that are in preview, I think that's another great thing we would love to show off. So, do just get in touch if you'd like to do a demo. We definitely want to support that and give you the platform to do so. If you're doing something with the JavaScript core library, whether that's in Node or whether that's in SharePoint Framework or just normal client-side development, very happy to have you demo that as well. You can always contribute on GitHub, and contributing could be submitting pull requests, submitting issues, or just helping out with issues is also a great way to contribute. We get a lot of folks jumping in and helping out with those sorts of questions, and that really helps get folks an answer a little bit faster than maybe waiting for one of the core team members to get a chance to circle back and answer. So really great to see that community participation on the GitHub. And then of course you can always provide us feedback on these calls and through the other forums such as the Microsoft Tech community. Those are great places to let us know what's on your mind. So jumping into the JavaScript core component update, we've got the 2.0.7 release planned for July 11th, which is next Tuesday, I believe. That's going to include bug fixes and new features, and we'll have, of course, the blog post and the updated changelog and those things to outline exactly what will be in that package once we do the release. There is several betas out there for that release right now, so if you want to get a preview of what's coming or help us test that, please do grab one of the beta versions. I do want to remind folks, be sure to check out the dev guide and the wiki. We're getting a lot of questions as folks are coming to the library who might be new to the library itself, or new a little bit to SharePoint client-side development. We're trying to put as many of the answers as we can into the wiki and specifically into the developer's guide. But there's a lot of great articles out there. I say myself having written them, but if there are gaps, please let us know those gaps. But please do check out those dev guides, check out the wiki, let us know where we can improve that. We do want that to have enough information for folks to be able to sort of pick that up and run with it for at least, most of the basic operations, if not all. So do let us know if there's gaps, but do check that out. If you have questions or unsure, that should be your first stop for trying to figure out if we've got that stuff documented. And if we don't, just let us know, and we'd love to get it documented, which benefits everybody. I did want to thank folks I mentioned on the last call to please make sure you circle back if we comment on your issue or we need more information. And since then, the folks who've been submitting issues have done a really great job of being responsive on those issues and answering the questions, and in a couple cases giving us some key information that let us fix bugs that weren't necessarily apparent from the initial reporting, from the initial issue submission. So really, thank you for that. Really appreciate it, and it helps us solve the problems a lot faster than having to try and guess and figure it out on our own, because it's virtually impossible for us to recreate, exactly what's happening in everyone's scenario. So thank you for that work and that those contributions from the folks on those issues. And I just wanted to update. I talked on the last call kind of about what the numbers were looking like for June, and so we got the final numbers in for June. We had 626 million requests in the month of June across 1,180 tenants using the JavaScript core library. And again, I want to thank all of you in the community for making that happen, for using it on your projects, for evangelizing it, for writing blog posts about it, and contributing to it in all the different ways. The growth is phenomenal. I'm really excited. I hope you all are really excited about that. But it's great to see kind of that in raw numbers to come across. So, and then a couple links down there at the bottom. The SPFx community link, again, goes to the Microsoft Tech community. That's a great place for general SharePoint development questions, SharePoint framework questions, things like that. And then the Gitter is sort of our Gitter channel. I still to this day have no idea what to call Gitter, but it's sort of our Gitter channel or Gitter conversation space specific to the JavaScript core library. So if you have questions specifically about the JavaScript core library, that's a little bit more focused space to get those questions answered and find out how to proceed. So moving right into demos, I'm going to go ahead and say, Jose, if you're ready and you want to go ahead and take over the presentation.
Yeah, ready. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I will share my screen. Just let me know when the screen starts to appear. So yeah, thank you, Patrick, for having me here again in this special interest group call. For those who don't know me, my name is Jose Quinto. I work for a company called Content & Code based in London. And today what I'm going to show you is why and how to extend business objects with inside of PNP.js core. I will start with this agenda, which is we will be talking about three main points. First of all, why should we do this custom object inside of PNP.js core? How use the extensibility provided by PNP.js core, and how to go further and see using decorators and parsers in the solution. So this is a demo guided, and I will be doing the demo directly now using Visual Studio Code. So this is the project, the web part. I did create it for this intention. And initially, well, we have here a new component, which is code slider. But what I want to focus on is the components, because I have here all the PNP.js code. Let's see that from the beginning. And here, I will be showing you two samples. One sample is PNP.js core code without custom object, and afterwards the sample with custom objects. So we can notice the difference between these two approaches. So for example, going further with this one, I am using here the typical await async operator to grab all the promise on here, which means that all this call we have over here will return an object, this variable, which is actually the object we are waiting for. And in this case, we are getting all the web, all the list, the title, the list called PNP sample, all the items, get the item number 1, and doing some selections, like these fields, for example. So here we can see how, by providing this variable, which actually is of type any in TypeScript, we will face some kind of issues, like, for example, if we go try to get the access for the properties for this variable, it's impossible to grab it. You don't have IntelliSense, you don't have type checking, so that is kind of error prone. So all the JavaScript developers will have a problem doing that. We can maybe use the other approach, which is using custom objects. In this case, I am using a custom object called myItem, and myItem, we will see later how I created this item. But the final result is, in this case, in this scenario, I am returning item custom object, which is the variable of type myItem. And on here, I have all the IntelliSense I want. So that's pretty cool, and that is getting all the benefits from TypeScript doing the PNP.js core as well. So for example, some examples which this approach will help on will be like detecting some errors like lowercase title, which is not the property itself, the property is title, or detecting other errors because of the properties. So that is pretty good to have that implemented on our solution, even when we have more than one developer working on the same web part. So let's move on and see actually this code working on the real web part. So let's go to the page and add a web part on here. Here we have a code beaver, which means that I did some React component for wrapping all the code samples I wanted to show you. And that means that, for example, no custom objects is the sample code with no custom objects on on the PNP.js configuration. So for this code I was showing you before, I will be running the code just to see how that is returned. So we can see in the panel that this object itself is returned as the full object is returned. So for example, if we move on custom objects, which is the other sample with custom objects, and we run the code again, we can see slightly the difference. So, for example, first thing I notice is the first one is returning a kind of object, but the second one is returning my item, which is good in terms of debugging. So, for example, more things. We are returning the full object, which means that we can use a method chain to continue calling PMP.js core, which is as well good. So let's move on the things. Now we have shown you how to display and why using these custom business objects. Let's see actually the implementation for this my item. So we can see here how, I mean, in this call, in this PMP call, we can see how we get the item number one and how we call on here. This is the key of the this is the key of the sentence. And here actually we are specifying to the PMP score which we can use my item as a model. So we need to use this as in order to use in our further requests. How I can build this object? So let's go to model and see my item. This model is pretty simple. I mean, the only thing we need to do is extend for item, which is actually a class provided by SPFx, and create our class and provide some static fields, ID, title, category, quality, provide some fields, and override the get. So what we are doing here is overriding the get because we want to filter or to do automatically the select query, include the select parameter in the query. So this is what it's about. This example is on the wiki, in the PMP.js core wiki, and it's pretty good. And it's basically the sample I showed you before. But we are going now further. So we now know how to create this custom object, which is actually inheriting from item, but you can inherit from items as well as a collection instead of a single item. But going further, what I am going to show you now is a similar class to this one, but instead of doing these fields a separate way, we are going to put some decorators on every property in our model we want to be selected or to be requested as a query parameter, as a select query parameter. So for doing that, I just created my document, which is another class. Let's go little by little. So my document is extending item as well, but in this case, it's using the select decorator. Select decorator is a TypeScript decorator I implement myself, and I am grabbing them, select and expand decorators from utils decorators. Let's see what is going on there. Utils decorators. Basically, these are two functions, select and expand. These are inheriting, these are returning another function from property decorator type, from TypeScript. Basically, what it does is setting the metadata on the proper object. So because property decorators allows to set the object itself, we are doing that by calling the set metadata method, which is on here. We are not going further in details on this implementation, but this code will be in GitHub, in the repository, so you can check whatever you want. The idea is having in mind how that can be used and which are the benefits we are getting with. So, for example, continuing here, I have my title property, which is public property, and this property will be selected. And because the select decorator has no argument on here, will be selected by the same name of the property. But imagine we have a name property, which actually we want to query against SharePoint using file list ref instead. So we will be using the decorator specifying the argument on here. And the same scenario when we want to expand some item like file length. We want to expand, we will using the expand decorator, file length, and the select decorator as well. And that will be producing a variable on our model with the name size. Basically, the implementation for the decorators, we already have seen it, but here in our custom business object, we need, in the get, we need to implement the grabbing this information as well. So not only the set, the information, also grab the information, which means that I use this set custom query from decorator, which is a method which is actually implemented on here. You can see further if you want later. But let me show you how it works actually in the web part. So let's move on to the demo. Here I have different scenarios. So for example, the first scenario is using PMP to call only one single item, get by ID 1. That means that further later here that will be an item. And yeah, let's run the code actually. Let's clean the cat and run the code. Here we have our normal PMP.js implementation, which is actually grabbing all the information here because we get all the properties, we don't select anything. So for example, let's move forward in the single select span, and we can see the same sample, but we add these lines, the select and expand lines. Let's run the code, and we can see slightly the difference, which is we are grabbing all the properties here on this object, but on here we kind of filter the properties and filter the query and the response as well, which is a good practice. Let's move further and use our custom implementation with a single, which is one document using as document, which means that that will be using our model and get information. So let's run the code. We can see now how my document is on here on the class name, and we can see now how we have more methods. And these methods are actually the methods used by PMP.js. And they are needed if you want, imagine you want to, after this as my document, you want to skip one or you want to filter something. So you still are able to do it because that is returning the full object with the full, all the properties and all the methods you have on here. Cool. Let's see another step more, which is the parser. Using the parser, the problem we are facing here, using just let me show you again, using just this method, this as my document, we are having here a problem, which is we are not doing the mapping between properties. I mean, for example, a size property is not being has not been generated. So we have file length instead, file length inside. So in order to generate this return response and as we want, we have implemented a parser. So we can use the parser. Let me show you quickly how this parser and where is it. It's behind parsers folder. And this parser is, we have two parsers. One is array and another is the normal parser. The normal parser is for single documents. Array is for document collections. Let's see the single one. And what we are doing here is basically grabbing the same implementation that actually have the default parser from PMP.js, but still processing and including our properties by using this function. Okay, so let's see the result, which is what we're interested on. So yeah, the result, let's run the code. Running the code, we notice how now we have the size property on here, which is actually the same we have on file length. And we have the name, which is actually the same that we have in file libref. So that is, I think, is a really good approach if you have, or you want to have all the control of your custom model, but you want this custom model be integrated with SharePoint as well and with the PMPG solution. Just for a couple of minutes more, because I wanted to show you the same we have been seeing now with single, but with multiple documents, with collections. So for example, we have the collection of document, which is basically all the items from the same library. And let me clean the console. If we run the code now, we see how the normal PMPGJS query returns us all the objects with all the implementation for the REST API. But let's move forward and use the as my document collection. Run code. Basically, it's the same implementation, but we have been developing, let me show you the code, this my document collection in a similar way that my document. But instead of using the properties like here, the property mapping, we are using actually the item template, which is my document itself. Let's move on and see the result with the parser. So we eventually see how we can do the query with our custom model as custom model. We can continue using the method chaining, and we can implement. We can get this information by using the parser, the custom parser. And then the result is we have the list of documents. Everyone is my document on here, and we have as well all the properties in the objects as we want, size and name. Imagine we want to clean this code quite a bit, or we want to clean our final object or a variable. We can go further because this custom parser is so personalizable. So we can go further and say, okay, just return my model, just return the properties with the decorator. So I have implemented some version on which of this parser, which actually does that. And let's see the result, which is actually returning name, size, and title for every object, which is quite nice. So yeah, basically that is the what I wanted to cover. The important points. This code, this project is on GitHub available, and I will share the links. Let me show you the links. We have, if you want to go further with this topic, I write a blog series, which you can find over here, this link, and I try to explain in detail all the implementation for every single class. And the full code is on this GitHub project as well. So thank you for listening.
Thanks. That's really great stuff. This is something we talked about on a call couple calls ago about custom business objects and how to sort of, there could be a lot of different approaches to extend the JavaScript core library. And this is a great approach that Jose has taken here. It's really great, and I would encourage everybody to check out the code and check out the series of blog posts that really walks through everything. It's really nice work, and excuse me. And I think it's a really cool approach that could have a lot of application for folks' work out there. So let me. No, I don't want control. That's not actually what I want. I want to apologize, folks. My Skype is still not behaving. So exactly as planned, we'll have Gary do a demo on Angular 2 with the JavaScript core library. So Gary, if you are ready to take over.
Oh. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Right, thank you very much, Patrick. Jose, that was a great demo. Hopefully I can follow you, and this demo is good. Right, okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
There we go, and... Oh. So, yeah, so again, Patrick, thanks for letting me do this demo. So my name's Gary Trinder. I'm a technical director at Point Solutions, consultancy in the UK. Been around SharePoint for about 10 years now, and doing a lot of Office 365 development. The demo that I wanted to show was how you can access the SharePoint APIs using Azure AD authentication using the PnP Core JS library. So the demo is going to be a quick run through, but essentially it's an Angular 2 single page application running an Azure website. Going to authenticate the user with Azure AD using implicit flow to get an access token, and then pass that token through with the request from PnP. So previously, so if we just go to the GitHub, I raised an issue where we could pass access tokens through to the APIs, but when we wanted to do posts, there was obviously a step where if you're in SharePoint, you'd go and get a request digest, which if you pass an authorization token, you don't need that step. So I raised this issue, and Patrick actually looked at it and fixed it, which was actually a single line fix. So it was a very easy fix to add quite a lot of functionality, but allowed us to actually make post requests. So it made using PnP Core outside of SharePoint much easier, and actually worked for the push request that you wanted to make. So what I'll just quickly do is just kind of go through the setup of the sample app. So I've got my Azure AD application here in my tenant. It's set up with all the required permissions. So SharePoint Online. We're just reading profiles, reading items in a SharePoint list to pull that through into the app. The app itself, a bit of a preview there, is here. So this is running Azure right now. It's protected, so I can't actually get to any of the announcements through this because I've not logged in. So it will log into Azure AD using implicit auth, and what it's going to do is pull details through from a SharePoint site, which I'll just load up here. I just have a simple announcements list. Here we go. So we can see in there we've currently got 2 announcements. Now, what I can do is log into the app. Just going to log me in so it can actually see, yep, it's logged me in. Those are my details at the top that have come from the token, say who I am and what my username is. I can get through to the announcements, and then this is where the PnP Core library takes over. We can obviously see the items in there that are in the list, but I can add them. Let's just do set an expiry and add that in there, and you can see that's added. And if I go back to the list, it's added it in here. So it's obviously the post is working. It's got my author details because it knows from the token. So quickly moving to the code side. So like I was saying, this is a Angular 2 app that is scaffold. It's got a few services. What I have done is created a standard data access class where we set up PnP. So import PnP, set the base URL, and then set the authorization header, which currently I'm storing in session storage. But as you can see, I've got lots of functions in here to just get all items as text, which if people have used that in SharePoint REST API before, it requires the IDs for each of the list items, so you have to call them individually. So it being able to use the batching functionality in PMP in this scenario was extremely useful, so that I could just get all the item IDs and then do a single request to return all of the text for those individual items. So there's only ever 2 requests to get all the data back as text, and a few other helper methods to get text by ID, get all as IDs, adds, removes, and updates. So those are the standard functions. I have an announcement service which extends this and passes in a list name. So I've got a one service to one list approach, which in some cases just call the underlying methods in data access. But in terms of adding announcements, I actually use some extra work as well on top. And if I come into my announcements component, you can see that I'm calling just directly to the announcement service, but at the core, all the data access is handled by the PMP core library, and obviously all the benefits of that. So I think in terms of the amount of code that's been having to written as well, the PMP core library has saved me a lot of custom dev, and that this data access layer can just be built up using the core library, but also the flexibility to easily move to use one of the HTTP classes in Angular if I needed to. Basically, the demo was just to kind of show that this is now possible to do these posts to Office 365 APIs from the latest version. So that was put in at 2.06. And that's it. It's a very quick demo, but I hope that people find that useful, and it's just another possibility of accessing SharePoint data through the PMP core library.
That's great. Thanks, Gary. I think that highlighted a couple of great things. One, using the library in a real application, but also that feedback cycle of Gary finding, an improvement we could make, reporting it, us making the improvement, and it really helping out, his work and then the work of others. So that's the kind of feedback we're always looking for and always really appreciate. Man, I got to tell you, PowerPoint today is just not my friend. So we got plenty of time on this call for an open discussion, but I did want to say again, thank you to Jose, thank you to Gary. Those are some outstanding demos from both you folks, and we'll have the links. Like I said, if the recording's actually recording, we'll have the recording up, but we'll definitely have the post with the links to these resources as well. So, again, if you have a demo you'd like to do on the call, something like what you saw today, or just other work you've done that's cool and you'd like to share it with the community, please do let us know, reach out. We'd love to have you on the call, love to give you the platform to do that demo. So at this point, this week, we've got plenty of time for open discussion. If folks have questions, comments about something you might have seen today, something you've been working on, happy to try and help out with those. How to use PMP.js from an Azure website. I think Gary's stuff will sort of show that, getting the token, and like I said, we'll have the links out. You do not have the code on GitHub. So we'll get the links out, and there are some other articles as well we can share around getting the Azure AD authentication stuff working. Some of them are more specific to SharePoint Framework, but the same ideas kind of apply with getting the token, and then with sort of the work Gary was talking about, passing that token then through to all the requests. If not, we can close up a little early today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate everybody kind of working with us on the change of invite. So thank you for updating your invites. And reminder to folks listening at home, please do also update your invite so you can join us live. And we'll look to see you guys at our next meeting, which is going to be July 20th. So everybody have a great weekend. Hope you had a good week so far, and look forward to talking to you soon.